incorporating different cultures. But there's a culture that we don't even think about because they're all Americans, or they're fighting, or they're together in an American cause.
Right.
But they come from all over the place, and they have their own culture. And so I asked Major Donna Smith to talk to us about what it is that people encounter when they come back from being in Iraq or fighting a war. And so I want to thank you, Donna, for joining us on the Lillian McDermott Radio Show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, and I'd love for you to share a little bit about your background so that we know what you've experienced, and then we can go from there.
Okay. I joined the Air Force Reserve about 17 years ago, and as a transportation officer. And at the same time, I also had been in corporate America and been working. So as a reservist, you kind of live two lives, if you will, that a lot of people don't understand as well. And that in and of itself is a whole other culture. But in 2010, I got the opportunity to deploy to Iraq. And that was a tremendous experience. That and coming back was truly something that you can't really ever prepare for.
And tell us more about that, because I love how you said you had the opportunity. I think that's so beautiful, that you had the opportunity to be a part of the military overseas, as opposed to saying, oh man, this was a curse, or I would have gone kicking and screaming. And I love my country. I just don't know. You have to have that in you. And so I want to thank you for your service. And for standing up for all of us, those of us who just don't know how to fight. And so share a little bit about what you experienced when you came back.
In coming back, because you are effectively absent from what has come to be your life for that period of time, and you're totally ingrained in something else, somewhere else. And regular communication, although in this day and age, with technology being what it is, regular communication just has a different dynamic. So and things continue while you're gone. So your family picks up the slack of your absence. They do things differently because you're not there to do them as you used to be. So they figure things out along the way. And you come back and you're, kind of, you come back and you want to veg out a little bit, or you want to ease back into your life a little bit, and your family is like, you're back, you need to do this, and this, take out the garbage, do this, and then at the same time, you want some kind of normalcy, or you want to engage the way that you used to, or even in new ways that you've learned because you deployed. So it can often lead to some clashes, because as Ms. Sagan was saying, there are cultural differences even in that. Even if your family, because my husband is military as well, and he deployed the year before I did. Okay. So even in having a dual military family, there's still differences and there's still perspectives that you can't always understand, and it can cause clashes when you're trying to move forward because you've had different experiences.
Well, what would be your suggestion? And I'm going to ask Tegan as well. What is it that we need to know about the military as they return? Do you feel like you're home, or do you feel an alien in your own country?
I have been very blessed, actually, in that the area that I live is very pro-military. One such organization is AVET, for example.
Yes, the AVET Project.
Yes, AVET Project, the American Veteran Empowerment Team. They are tremendously supportive in their efforts to ensure that members come back and are effectively integrated into society with some of the programs that they have going on. So what can people do? A simple thank you for your service is appropriate, and we've gotten that a lot. And sometimes I don't even know how to respond to that because it's just what I do.
Sure.
Um,
Sure. I mean, it's just what you do. Exactly. It's in you. It was the way either that you were raised. It was the way that you felt that you listened to the calling within you. And so that calling and saying yes to defend our country can create some side effects, just like everything in life, you know? And so, Tegan, I want to bring you into the conversation, and Tegan is the founder of Cultural Candor. How can we, especially, you know, you're talking about, and I don't want to pick on the Brazilians because, you know, there's a lot of people who time is a suggestion. It has nothing to do with just that particular culture.
Exactly.
And so how do we incorporate someone like the military who's like 100 hours, you know, like they are so on time, and how do we incorporate someone who has a military pass with someone who is a civilian? How do we incorporate that together?
I think that when you're building a relationship between somebody who's a civilian versus somebody who has such a strong military background, it's important to find a common ground that you both can relate to. If you put a level of understanding inside of your relationship, it's much easier to communicate with one another and make sure that you stay on the same page. So I really do think that common ground is kind of the best way to approach these type of situations.
Yes, yes, and Donna, I know Donna's listening. We'll be calling you back so that you know. So when you hear someone like Donna, and you know, when I was talking to her on the phone prior to getting her on the air, I asked her, how would you like for me to address you? Would you like me to address you as Major Smith, Major Donna? You know, and so she said, well, if we're talking about integrating, then I guess would be Donna. So, but how important is a title? How important is a title to someone who's in the military and they're no longer in service, and they're perhaps maybe acting like a civilian?
I think that for the military, the titles remain very important even when they're living a civilian life. But something that I find really interesting is when you're traveling and you're working with other cultures, some cultures just really are interested in the titles, and they, for example, in Germany, you need to be Doctor, Mr., Engineer. You got to have all three of those things in line before you state their name. I think Americans tend to be a little bit looser with titles. We tend to be a little bit more informal. And the military men and women that I've worked with before have asked me, you know, can you drop the title? We've had an informal relationship for a while now. It's no longer as necessary as it was in the beginning. But for those first few months or first few weeks, I think it's really important to make sure you refer to them as what they are, because they've made such a contribution and sacrifice for us. It's just respectful to do so.
What would you like to say about that, Donna? Oh, do we have?
I think she's yes, I'm back. I think she's absolutely correct in that. Because it's what we do, the titles are there, and it's what we do every day. So we kind of forget, in a way, how important it is. And the titles, they serve to remind us as well as extend the respect for what we do.
Yeah, but you know, being a major is very, very special. But how about being Donna? Is that something that that being in the military you forget that you are Donna?
Sometimes.
Okay, I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. Now you work even though you are in the reserves at this point, you surround yourself with a lot of military people. Is that what I understood?
I do.
So do you still address yourselves with the title of major or captain or?
When I'm at work, when I'm on base, even between social events, if there are people that know me from the base or that work with me from the base, the title will often remain as that relationship, that to maintain that kind of relationship and respect.
Yeah.
In with civilians though, I often want to just be Donna.
Yes. Yes.
Because sometimes the magnitude of what we do, and I am by no means in a career field that is directly on the front lines, and there are people I've worked with the 920th Rescue Wing, for example, that does tremendous work that is directly in harm's way, but nonetheless, because we are doing what we do, it all contributes to the security of our nation.
Absolutely.
And that's an important thing.
Absolutely, without a doubt. Mm-hmm. So we have Americans overseas. Donna was in Iraq, and how long were you there for?
I was there for 4 months.
4 months, and that 4 months probably seemed like an eternity. So how do we as Americans go to a foreign land that we are defending the country or we're defending ourselves? How do we react to the people who are there, the locals?
With the utmost respect.
Okay, so
yeah.
Absolutely. So let's bring Tegan Sabatier in to respond to that question as well.
I think that a lot of preparation needs to go into preparing to be boots on the ground overseas, because you're going to get there, you're going to have to go through your initial, on average, 2-3 months of culture shock. It's going to wear off, you're going to integrate eventually, but it's such a different lifestyle, and the way you interact with people can be so different, and I think it's important to go in there fully prepared.
What are some of the cultural differences that we need to be aware of, especially as we are going into third world countries, and what are some of the things that we need to be aware of?
I think one of the main things that I hear recurring over and over as a theme is the differences in decision making across cultures. And one of the really interesting aspects is that we as Americans are given a variety of possibilities in our lives. I mean, this is the country where you can pretty much pursue any dream that you have.
Yes.
And over there, things are, in the third world and developing country, it's much more limited. They have limited resources and limited opportunities. And we need to understand that those limitations affect their decision-making processes. And so when we go over there and we arrive in these countries, it's important for us to understand that the way they go about making decisions is going to be vastly different from how we do so, simply because of the limitations that they have.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Donna, did you see a lot of that? Or as Major Smith, did you see a lot of that? Where the men had, and I'm assuming it's the men who make the decisions, right, Tegan?
It depends on where you're going, but for the most part, yes, it is the men.
Yes. So was that difficult for you, or as part of being in the military as well?
It wasn't so much difficult as much as it was interesting. I got an opportunity to work with some of the ambassadors in Iraq that were dealing directly with some of the local leaders in the area as they were trying to exercise the diplomatic instrument of power, if you will. They were trying to work with the locals to help them engage in the global market. So it was interesting in that, yes, wherever we went, there was all men that were there. I was very often the only female in those experiences and those situations, and I did have to be cognizant of that. I did have to be aware of that. And prior to going, Ms. Tegan is absolutely right. There is preparation. There is cultural training that we go through prior to going into these countries so that we can better understand their culture.
What was your biggest... go ahead. Keep going. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
No.
What is taboo for them?
Yes, and that was
highly disrespectful.
That's right. What was your? I mean, I sometimes we learn by baptism by fire. What was your biggest takeaway as you were surrounded by a different culture What was your number one lesson that you learned?
For me, my number one lesson was really how beautiful this world is, and really how underneath it all, there are certain elements that everybody kind of desires. Everybody wants to have a good life, however they interpret that good life to be. Everyone wants to feel empowered. And
whatever that empowerment looks like, right?
Exactly. And I think that if we can understand, I currently work at the Defense Equal Opportunity Management Institute, and we operate under the principle that everyone has infinite dignity and worth.
I love it. I love that, and I love that. And Major Smith, and Donna, whichever way we're going to call you, I am so grateful that you would share that perspective with us. And so, are you going to continue going and being deployed, or are you done?
It depends on what opportunities present itself. I'm currently working on staff at the DOMI, the Institute, and that's a 3-year control tour. And you go back and forth. And as a reservist, because you have your civilian life, I'm a business and I own a company named D&D Travel on the civilian side. You've got to figure out how all of that is going to play out in your life and how you're going to continue to serve and yet continue to make a living when you're not serving.
Yes.
I don't have an answer for that.
No, but I am very grateful for your service. Thank you. And I want to remind all my listening friends that American Warrior Radio can be heard on Saturdays here on WMEL at 11 a.m. So thank you so much, Donna, for joining us this morning for the broadcast and sharing your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Tegan, oh my goodness, time just flew.
Yes,
and
it
there's
did.
just so much to talk about, so much understanding for each other and compassion. I think that's basically what you do. You're like a little light that goes around saying, just love each other.
I hope so.
Just understand each other. And so what's one thing that you would like to leave with your listeners about, what you're doing with cultural candor?
I think I would like to tell all of the listeners out there that if you are in a cultural situation where you feel a little bit uncomfortable and unsure of yourself, just stop, take a breath, calm yourself down, and realize that we are all in this world together. We are all part of this wonderful journey that we call life, and that our differences aren't as big as we think they are. And a little bit of cross-cultural understanding can really go a long way.
And they can call you at 888-232-8566.
That's correct.
Okay, and they can contact you at contact@culturalcandor.com. And I will have all that information along with your picture at my Facebook page at Lillian's Radio Show. And is there anything else that you'd like to say? We've got 1 minute left.
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot of it.
Well, I know. And there's just so much. So, my listening friend, if you are finding yourself that you're going to travel overseas, even for vacation, contact Tegan Sabatier, and she'll be able to help you in any language that she speaks.
I'll try my best.
50 countries, I'm sure she will be able to help you. And it's very important that when we go to another land, or when we deal with other people, to be aware of what things are offensive, and let's just be sensitive to each other.
Exactly. That's so important.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, and it is just very important that we understand that, we are one, we are one. And so that is one thing that we just forget, that we are one. And so for those of you who would like to get a hold of Tegan, it is I lost your number. Give me your number again.
It is 888-232-8566.
8566, and I am just so excited that we were able to have you here on the show. And please remember, my listening friend, let's embrace our similarities, because we're all just want to love and be loved.
Exactly.
So please remember, we have a date, so join me weekday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. Again, thank you, Tegan.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and this is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever.